Okay, a lot of topics on the table, and let's start with a big marquee story in the National Football League. This came out of nowhere. This is a real sudden story. Franco Harris passes away. Best known for the Immaculate Reception with the Pittsburgh Steelers in the Raiders playoff game. Best known for a decade plus of excellence as a big power back in Chuck Noll's offense. And best known, I think, for a lot of the community stuff he did. You know, John, I was thinking about this on the way over to our San Diego studios. The NFL historically has a couple of moments where there's an asterisk that says, yeah, that made the NFL. First one was in 1958. First televised championship game, New York Football Giants, Baltimore Colts, overtime. Alan Amici's touchdown run in overtime gave the Baltimore Colts the championship. It was the first game on TV, and it really set up trend and a pace of what the National Football League was going to be. Another moment with an asterisk has to be the Holy Roller play. Raiders, Chargers, Ted Hendricks, what was legal, what was illegal. That's there. And the Immaculate Reception, I think, is the third one. Franco Harris picking up the ricocheted pass off the shoulder pads of John Frenchie Fuqua and taking it in for the game-winning touchdown. Steelers, Oakland Raiders, AFC playoff game. Hell of a player. I first crossed paths with him when he was at Penn State. Might have been 1971. He was a huge Nittany Lion alum. Did enormous things for the university. Was one of the few guys that stood up on behalf of Joe Paterno in the midst of the whole Jerry Sandusky scandal. I first met him 1970. I broadcast a game at Beaver Stadium, 105,000. He was not the starting running back. He was the starting fullback. Starting running back was Lydell Mitchell.
Oh, yeah.
Baltimore Colts, who was drafted the year before Franco was drafted. Those two guys ran like a freight train all day long. It was phenomenal. What a great player. What a great human being. His philanthropic stuff that he did in Pittsburgh and was still doing, hospitals, educational foundations, scholarships for kids in the inner city. What a great, great human being. And, you know, he was part of a great Steeler team. You think of that era, you think of steel curtain defense, Jack Lambert, Mean Joe Green. You think of Bradshaw, Swan, Stallworth. You need to think of Franco Harris because he was really the last piece that they put into the puzzle that made the Steelers, Chuck Noll's-led team, a complete football team. Got 4 Super Bowl rings. Hell of a guy.
Yeah, I mean, just tremendous. I know that he's beloved in Pittsburgh. And, you know, Penn State right down the road there from Pittsburgh, of course. I just remember, the Immaculate Reception, 1972, right? And I was 7 years old at the time. That's when I first started really following the NFL. And I was, of course, following the Raiders at the time because I was up in the Bay Area. And the Raiders and the Steelers had so many epic playoff games in the 70s. And I'm trying to remember if I watched the Immaculate Reception live or if that's one of those fuzzy memories when you're 7. But I just remember all those games at Three Rivers. And the Steelers were so darn hard to beat for the Raiders. But that team was just loaded, and it even had Rocky Bleier, the Vietnam vet. It was just a really colorful team that is one of the greatest eras in the NFL.
Tell you what, when I used to, as voice of the Chargers and Seahawks, the Steelers were still playing at Three Rivers, and you go up in an elevator, and you get off the elevator on 5th level, and to the left are all the Steelers offices, and to the right, big concourse that goes all the way around the stadium. You walk around that concourse, and I'll tell you, it's like the echoes of the history of the Steelers are there. It just, if those walls could talk, the stories they could tell you would be unbelievable. And I had access one time to go to Mr. the owner, Brainlock, Steelers owner.
I know, and I'm brainlocking too.
Oh, come on.
Rooney.
I went to Art Rooney's office.
Mm-hmm.
Is a shrine. It's like a Hall of Fame memorabilia that goes back. Of course, he owned the Rooney family, bought the franchise, I think, in 1933. And so I had access to go in. This is after he had passed. And just amazing just to stand there and see old helmets and pictures of all the famous people he was with. What an amazing place. And like I say, Three Rivers Stadium, you walk through the place and just the history with all the great teams, obviously, that Chuck Noll had, then Bill Cowher had, and Mike Tomlin had in the early era. Just really a special time. And it's eerie. The Steelers this weekend were honoring the 50th anniversary of the Immaculate Reception. And Franco was supposed to be there, and he passed away very suddenly. It's an amazing story.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a tough moment for NFL fans, but talking about Three Rivers and the Rooney family, just what an incredibly well-run organization.
Oh yeah.
Just the continuity is what I think about, where they've kept coaches and GMs for long periods of time. They weren't constantly blowing up the model and restarting. So just a lot of greatness there in those halls. So good on you for being out there at Three Rivers.
The Italian army of Franco Harris to the terrible towel and all that in between.
Yeah.
How cool is Steeler football? Okay, next question.